Okie dokie, next step on your owl relief. You're going to take a piece of cardboard and your picture, and you're going to transfer the picture onto the cardboard. We've got some carbon paper here. And even though the carbon paper's been used a number of times, it's still usable for this purpose. You can use carbon paper over and over and over again. So if you put the carbon paper on your little piece of cardboard and then put this on there and kind of feel where the corners are, like the corner's right over there. So I'm going to slide this picture over until I line up that corner right there, and then make sure that this corner is lined up over here. Kind of get it all centered on there. All right, and I'm even going to tape it so it'll stay in place. Let me show you how that works. Okay, so I've got it taped down just on two sides. That's fine, just so it doesn't scoot around. And you can see how I measured it so it's centered right where my drawing is. And I'm going to use a ballpoint pen. That gives you the best transfer line. And I'm just going to trace over these lines on my picture. And the carbon paper is going to push the carbon, actual carbon, right onto the cardboard so that this picture will show up on the cardboard. So you want the white side up and you want the carbon paper down facing the piece of cardboard. And we'll just go around and trace everything on there with just one line. I'm not filling in or anything like that. I'm just making sure that I outline very carefully my image. All right, so I'll give you some time to do that. So I traced everything on there, and now I'm just going to take the tape off. All right, and take this off. And you can see there's my line drawing that's very similar to my picture from the carbon paper. And save me the carbon paper. I'll use it again. We'll just put it right back in the file, okay? So we're ready for the next step. Okay, and for the next step, we're going to use some glue. So I'm going to use some newspaper underneath. That's a good idea. And this time we're going to use the tacky glue. And mainly because the Elmer's glue, especially the Elmer's school glue, has so much water in it, it just runs all over the place. Tacky glue is really thick and will hold its shape a little bit better. So we're going to use the tacky glue. So we're going to trace over those pencil lines very carefully and leave a raised up area. I'm going to try not to get that little tail on there like I did before. See, I can run it off on the newspaper, that'll be fine. And when this dries, it will be a bump or a ridge. And that's what's going to give you the relief on there. So you want to just very carefully outline the owl's lines and outline on there. Okay? I'm getting better at it as I do it. Okay, so I finished outlining the leaves and the owl and the branch that he's standing on. So my last thing to do is in the background, I'm just going to add some texture with some dots. Not on the branch, not on the leaves, but just in the background. So I'm just going to lay down like a dot and then move it to another spot with a dot. I'll show you that. So there's a dot. 1, 2, 3. They're almost like a little triangle, and they end up connecting because of the tails on the glue. But that kind of adds to that texture. It's going to have to, right? Because it's there. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I could put one up here. So you get the idea. I'm just going to add a little bit of texture in the background. Not on the bird, not on the leaves, not on the branch. Okay, so he's got this white glue on him and the texture in the background, and the bird is kind of all put together. Now you can see I went around his beak and it eventually pulled together. You can only imagine if it was Elmer's glue, probably his eyes would have pulled together too, but hopefully they'll stay a little bit separate like that. Bigger spots are going to work better. Smaller spots are going to pull together a little bit. So, you know, you're going to have a little bit of trouble with that just because of the consistency of the glue as it settles onto the cardboard. But for the most part, this tacky glue does a lot better than the Elmer's glue. All right? Try to get to this point and then let it dry really good overnight. Like I would just take the whole thing with the newspaper over to a nice flat spot to dry. Again, gravity is going to hurt you a little bit. If you tilt it up on its side, you can imagine all that glue is going to run down. Even though it's thicker, it's still going to run around until it gets dry. So be careful with it. And then next week, we'll go to the next step.